Ladies and gentlemen and everyone in between, last year I spoke about what Mardi Gras meant to someone living in a rural and regional town. I spoke about how many LGBTIQA plus people living in rural and regional Australia have additional barriers to access essential services such as medical and healthcare and social activities to live their lives as their true selves. This year, I would like to speak about my experiences living in a rural and regional area as a member of a very proudful community. As an out, loud and proud transgender woman living in the beautiful Southern Highlands, which in simple geography is around an hour and a half from the Sydney CBD, my transition journey, although that it has been positive and uplifting, has also been challenging and testing at the best of times. I've always been a proud Southern Highlander, always has, always will, although that may change in the near future. So to set the story about my experience so far living in an area that, is starting to become its true self, let me take you on a little quick history lesson. And don't worry, this won't be long, but it will make sense later when we get to the experiences. From a very young age, I felt that I was different. I was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder when I was 2 years old. But at around the same time, I felt different in another way. I felt that I was born in the wrong body. I wanted to be a girl. While other people around my age were playing with cars and action figures and construction toys, I wanted to go the opposite way and express my inner feminine self. I expressed my desire to be a girl. I wrote in activity workbooks and worksheets and even watched TV shows that reflected my inner feminine self. But my family dynamic said no. I had to be a man and that was it. No ifs, no ands, no buts, no exceptions. So for the first 20 years of my life, I had to adapt and look a certain way, with no room to be different. But deep down inside, I well and truly wanted to be a classy lady. Prim, proper, and true. In 2004, I moved with my family to a small rural town called Tallong, which is a 2-hour drive from Sydney. 6 years later, and after some time passed from my 21st birthday, those feelings of wanting to become my true self returned, and they were amplified in a big, big way. I initially started buying whatever clothing that I could, but in secret and out of sight, and I was forbidden from leaving my bedroom and being out in the open world. I also had to teach myself how to apply makeup in the days before YouTube tutorials, through a lot of trial and a lot of error. In 2014, on the day after April Fool's Day, I came out to my dad in the car on my way to work. My dad is a very big supporter of my journey, and right from day one, he knew all along that I wanted to be me, true and authentic. However, I was met with silence and disdain from my other half of the family. And from that point on, my journey was about to get very rough. After I came out, I was subject to the very nasty horrors of my life, all because I went against my family's ideals. It even came to the point that I nearly came close to dying from the health complications brought on due to the stresses of my battle to be accepted. And in August of 2016, I decided enough was enough. I had to move out of the family home for my own safety and for my own future. In October of that year, after endless rejection after rejection, that wish came true. I was finally free to do whatever I desired, but I was in an area that was very old guard and very tight-knit. This brings me to the main part of this story. Now, people often call the Southern Highlands, and this is from their words, not mine, the largest retirement home. In 2016, LGBTIQA plus acceptance in the Southern Highlands was not on the agenda. There was not a single blip, notice, or mention. If you were different to the norms, standards, and traditions of the area, you were treated very, very harshly. I've experienced my fair share of hate, homophobia, and transphobia during my journey, which I won't mention here because it's a family program and all. But also people who were out, loud, and proud were also given the same treatment. Eventually, they had to move out of the area in fear of their own safety. But for me, I was in for the long haul. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to be me in my own backyard. But every time I would venture out the door, dressed in such gorgeous glam, it would end badly. So I had to keep closeted and play the role of two people. And although it worked for a while, it wasn't the way that I wanted to live my life. I didn't want to wear a veiled mask. I didn't want to hide my true self away. And I certainly didn't want to live my life playing the role of two people. I wanted to be me, true and authentic. Now, after some time passed, and after going through the challenging years of a global pandemic, I started to work on myself a little more. I began to build my confidence up during the lockdowns to present myself in the public eye. Although it was little baby steps at first, but slowly and surely, we got the ball rolling. My wardrobe began to build out, and I began to find a style that suited me. I began to grow my hair out. I started to become more comfortable in the skin that I was in. And after a few more years, Cecilia Jane, aka Cece, was finally unveiled to the beautiful Southern Highlands. Now, for the record, Cece is all about being classy, chic, and being intelligent. Hence the Buddy Holly inspired eyeglasses. Today, the Southern Highlands and the Goulburn Moray regions are a lot different to the areas that I grew up in all those moons ago. The LGBTIQA+ people are now being accepted a whole lot more in the community, although there is a whole lot more work to do. What was once a region that people had to hide their true selves away from the eyes of the world is now completely the opposite. The days of being subject to hate for being who you are nothing more now than a distant memory. There are now a lot more rainbow youth in the Highlands and Goulburn areas, being their true, authentic selves. There are now a lot more options available for healthcare, including gender-affirming care. There are now community groups and meet-up groups such as Pink Drinks, and even the Highlands and Goulburn have a chapter of Rainbow Families. As for the township of Barrel, well, it is now considered the LGBTIQA+ capital of the Southern Highlands. And as for myself and for many other transgender folk in the areas, we are also setting now a benchmark. Now, just a moment and I'll be right back. Hang on. You got it? Yeah. Now this is a historical piece. This is the parade sign from my very first Mardi Gras. Yep, there we are. This was my first parade, and although the theme of my group was I just want to be me with 4 others, for me it was a whole lot more. For me, this was the culmination of years and decades of hard work, sacrifice, toil, strife, pain, heartache, and heartbreak that I had to endure in my journey to be me. I'm being able to be marched along the hollowed grounds of Oxford Street, representing over 100,000 combined residents of the Southern Highlands and Goulburn Moray is, and will always will be, a very prestigious honour that I will remember. Now, I don't want to go on too long, but in closing, if I have to give advice to anyone who is going through a similar transition journey as mine, it has to be this. Be you and only you. Be yourself. Don't let others influence you to be something you don't want to be. Trust me, you'll thank your inner self later when you are older and looking back on the glory years. Do not be afraid to venture outside your creature comfort zone and experiment and try new things. It's okay to be unique. It's okay to be you. It's okay to be me.